Yes, I almost forgot. Here is second bolt, and this is for setting, well, I don't know how to say, but I will show you. So now it is pushed at soft. I'm gonna push it at hard. And now, as you can see, it is going much more harder. Much more. But the shock is still under pressure and it is no getting back. So I have to you can see. And now I'm going to release this bolt and you will see how it will behave. Can you see it? Oh. So I will describe this bolt that this main role is to develop or control the speed of the rear shock absorber. As you can see, now it is going pretty fast and then it was not going at all. So now I'm going to clean it up and then I'm going to set it back and show you how to set your rear shock for different types of riding. So I'm using brake cleaner for cleaning almost everything because I think it's really really best way of cleaning. I would say that it cleans almost everything. So now I'm going to put it on the other side. Don't forget to clean up the rubber, because if under the rubber there is any mud, your shock will be always unclean and it may have a negative effect on your bike. I would say that my shock absorber is clean, as you can see, and I'm always using a silicone spray because it is not wet, it's dry, and after it only the surface of the thing is lubricated, but lubricated by a dry way. So I'm gonna get it inside, do one or two push-ups or even three, it doesn't matter. And I would say that my shock is ready. Okay, so I'm gonna mount it back, but beside this, I would say, or I have to say, that you have to be careful of your spring, because one side is smaller than second side. Is because of this mount is bigger than this, but it may vary on other bikes. So this is for KLX 250. As you can see, almost good. And this side, as you can see, it is pretty small. It can move, but on the other side, its movement is not allowed. So mounting a rear shock is completely the same thing as a demounting of the shock spring. We're gonna put the spring here. Now put the rubber thing back. And now we are ready to put the blocker inside. And that's all. Now you have to mount it back, at least that the spring is not moving freely. And now rubber gun down and your shock is complete. But the main thing or the main problem is that many people can't set their rear shock properly, because it depends on their weight or on their riding style. So I'm gonna give you some tips how to set it properly. So, like I said, this bolt is changing amount of nitrogen going inside the shock. So if you spread this, the nitrogen will circulate much more faster, and it means that the shock will go down faster. And if you will close this, the nitrogen will circulate much more slower, and it means that the shock is slower. So if you are riding motocross, for example, I would recommend you to almost close this bolt, because if you are jumping big jumps, it is very important not to have a soft rear shock. Then the second bolt, like I said, it is changing speed of the shock. So if you are jumping big jumps, and after the jump there is only a straightaway or some curves, it is better that your shock is moving slower, because then you will feel much more comfortable and confident on the bike. But if you are riding some enduro sections that your rear wheel has to be at the ground, and there's something like that, as you can, for example, this. For example, imagine that this is a rear tire. For example, if you have set the bolt that your shock is moving slower, it means if you jump rear wheel doesn't have time to, or it is not allowed to go to the surface, and it means that you lose your connection with surface. And it means if there is a curve, you cannot use your rear wheel to brake. So the simple explanation of this. But if you have this bolt set it that your rear wheel is really fast, it means that if your rear wheel goes back or the shock is pulled together, the speed of the shock is fast, and it means that after jump the wheel goes almost immediately at the surface. So it means that you have a really great connection with surface. So I would say that this is a simple explanation. So the second ball, and now, or the last thing, is the spring. And as you can guess, if your spring is pulled, it means that the rear shock is much more harder, and it is free like mine. It means that the shock is softer. So yes, that's my recommendation. Well, that's not my recommendation, that's only explanation how does a rear shock works. And my recommendation is that I don't know, or I have no recommendation to you because I don't know how you ride. But for me, I'm riding enduro, and I don't like when the wheel is not always at the ground. So I have set it the speed of the rear shock as fast as I could, and it means that I have really great connection with the surface, even if I'm riding at some small jumps or some rocky section and something like that. Then I don't like really hard shock absorber, so I set the shock as a bit softer. So it means that the bike is not kicking my ass every time I am on some jump or even on the straight road. And then the spring, well, it depends, I think, on your weight, because if you are heavier, for example, if you have 80 kilos or more, I would recommend you a bit harder setting of your spring. For example, like me, I have about 80 kilograms, and I like to have the spring a bit harder, because it means that that if shock is on the normal position, like bike is going straight, it means that the bike feel much more comfortable and confident, because it's like made of one piece, for example. I don't know how to say, but if your spring is set like softer, for example, it means that for me, if I had the softer setting of my spring, I felt like every time I hit the gas, the bike went to the bike, you know, bike went, or all the weight went to the rear wheel, so it was something like I felt that there was no rear shock. So that's quite all, I would say. And then I remembered that I have forgotten one thing, so I'm gonna show you. On my rear shock, as you can see, this part is made of metal, and I'm not able to get it down because it's quite simple rear shock, and its setting is not so good as I would say KTM's or some race bikes, or suspension from Öhlins and Marzocchi or something like that. But if you want to clean your rear shock properly, I would recommend you this. It is really great helper, and you are allowed to make it on your own at home from any kind of plastic bottle. I'm using this also for front suspension, because there is a rubber, and using this you can clean up this side. As you can see, you're putting this inside, and if there is a mud, you are getting it out. So I hope you can imagine how it works. It's pretty simple, and you're allowed to make it on your own at home. You don't have to spend money or for new one. I think somewhere I have seen like suspension equipment for cleaning, and it costs about $5 on something like that. So I would say that it is quite simple, and it is completely free to make it. Okay guys, so I think I have said everything what I wanted to, but if you have any questions, feel free to comment below the video. And yes, that's all. If you have some question about any other part of your motorcycle, or if you don't know how to do something on your bike, feel free to contact me. You can find me on Instagram and on YouTube, and I will try to provide you the best of me, of my experience. And yeah, see you later in the next video. Bye.